Coming up on today's Locked On Senators, is Ryan Reynolds another step closer on the long path to buying the Ottawa Senators?
And we are one step closer to finishing our exit interviews on the back end. Today, it's two young defensemen in Tyler Kleven and Jacob Bernard-Docker.
No Dax Sens. All that plus the last team into the playoffs is the first team eliminated. We'll have a Stanley Cup Playoff roundup and a whole lot more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 788 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Please like and subscribe wherever you download your podcast. We're also available on YouTube. Today is Friday, April 28th, and Pilsy, wow, we might finally have a new owner for the Ottawa Senators.
I mean, it's getting closer and closer. At least it seems that way. I'm sure, Ross, as soon as we think it's over, we'll get a tweet from Bruce Garriock saying, likely this will be pushed back a couple weeks here. But yes, it does seem like the Remington group, along with Ryan Reynolds, are the clear favorite. And that's good news to me. That's music to my ears, because Ryan Reynolds, what he can do with this team, if it's anything like what him and Rob McElhenney have done for the Wrexham group, is going to be very exciting.
Wait. Let me start this show over again. Today is Friday, April 28th. The Toronto Maple Leafs have lost 10 games in a row when they can advance to the second round.
I mean, we talk about news that's not really new in the Remington group and Ryan Reynolds. The Maple Leafs losing a game where they could move on to the second round is also not new news, Ross. I said it. I'm not 100% sure that the Leafs will be eliminated in the first round yet again, but I was damn sure, and I put my shekels behind it on FanDuel, that they weren't going to win that game, and that's what happened.
Oh my God, what a game. They made it close, but guess who? Nick Paul does it all. Gets his first goal in 30 games, Pilsy.
Oh my God.
It's the game winner.
That's what he does.
My buddy Skyler posted, buddy here in Winnipeg, he goes, man, don't look at this stat. And I pull it up. I said, what's he talking about? Well, Nick Paul he's fourth in franchise history for the Lightning with 3 career game-winning goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Well, 2 of them are against the Leafs. 1 in Game 7 last year, 1 last night. I hope he's got 2 more in him this week.
I sure hope so too, Ross. And as I was watching that game, as it ended, and I was standing up clapping, doing the Sens fan golf clap, I was saying, I was so upset at the producer of the broadcast. I don't give a crap about Tampa high fives and celebrating. Show me the sad Leafs fans. And finally, after a little while of seeing the Tampa Bay guys huddle around Vasilevsky, they showed the sad Leafs fans. And I love it. I love it. I could feed off of the nutrients of Leafs tears for a long time.
It was unreal. Tomorrow is going to be even more wild in Tampa, where they've gotten out to great leads in both games, but haven't been able to close it out.
Yeah, here's my thinking, Ross. Either there's only 2 options here.
Win or
the
lose?
Leafs win. Well, yes. The Leafs win Game 6 and move on, or the Lightning win Game 7. There's no opposite. Like if the Leafs lose Game 6, they're done. It's over.
Do you have a trip to the Leaf pile on your calendar for Tuesday? Or Monday?
I was thinking about this possibly, but it's getting really played out. Like the TSN bar down crew is really getting in there, and lots of TikTokers I've seen are doing that. So I don't know. I kind of want to do it, but it's getting played out in my opinion.
Are the Jays home Monday?
Not sure.
At least then you could go to Game Time, Get some cheap tickets.
True.
They're in Fenway, but I was going to say you could go to the Jays game, and that way on your way out of the Jays game, rather than just going down for the leaf pile, you could just walk across the street and do your little man on the street with your Positive Pillsy t-shirt.
Yeah.
The fans want it, but I understand either way. Game 7, I am going to be backing Tampa responsibly with everything I have. See the Roadcaster, putting that up. I'm putting my headphones up. Everything on my desk is up for guys.
Alfie's getting pushed into the
Oh,
pod.
no.
No, not Alfie.
You gotta draw a line somewhere. That little rat running around here somewhere. All right, back to the actual lead, because we'll get to playoffs later. Just a little fun aside. When you're 0-10 in the Matthews-Marner era, when having a chance to advance, you got to lead the show with that. Oh, I just got a text back from Bruce. I asked Bruce Garriock to jump on for 5 to 10 minutes. Garriock did make the announcement today and talk about bearing the lead. He believes that Ryan Reynolds and the Remington group are preparing a $1 billion offer to buy the Ottawa Senators. I said to Bruce, hell of a scoop, love it. Any chance you have 5-10 minutes to jump on? He goes, sorry, fellas, he's on the golf course right now.
And the only reason I was going to say, where's the photobomb by Lalim's Martian? But Martian is down in the States golfing as well. So those two golf buddies are not hitting the links today.
Yeah, dimpleheads, those guys love to swing the clubs. But hey, talk about a big swing. These guys clearly have a vision for Ottawa. If they're willing to pony up that much money, it would. And again, nothing is confirmed yet. This would be the most an NHL team has ever sold for. I don't want to see any more poverty franchise.
Yeah.
That's played out. That's over. $1 billion potentially.
Imagine telling us in our Making Sense of the Sens days, when we were looking at the LeBreton things, we were talking maybe there's going to be a sale or something, and telling us that this team was going to have an offer north of $1 billion. Oh my God.
They just got valuated for $625.
Yeah, whoever did that valuation better dust off the old resume, because you're a couple $100 million shy.
Well, to be fair, I don't think they took in the whole real estate angle of it, and that's obviously boosting the numbers a bit. But neither here nor there. If it does happen, this would be unparalleled success, at least in the back pocket of the Melnyk estate. So maybe this is what he meant by unparalleled success, is that he bought this team. I believe it was $100 million for the arena and the team.
I think it was 130 or something, but yeah, it was right around there. Yeah.
Wow.
In what, 2003?
Yes, 2003. Yeah. Not bad. 20
Talk
years.
About return on investment. Yeah. Damn.
Not a math guy, but that's a pretty good return. Wow. All right. Well, we'll keep following that as it continues. Again, we're just at the mercy of people who actually have ins. We're waiting on the official word so that we can do what we do best, and that's hunt down Ryan Reynolds to get him on the show. I want the Braddies on the show too. I want to know how this deal went down behind the scenes. So we're going to work on that for you throughout the summer here on Locked On Senators. But immediately coming up, we've got some playoff chatter. We've got Jacob Bernard-Docker and Tyler Kleven rounding out our exit interviews for the back end of the Ottawa Senators. We've already covered the 7 defensemen on NHL contracts, and now we've got these 2 young bucks, the prospects, coming up and trying to make their mark on the Sens top 6. All right, that's all coming up next. You're listening to Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Guys, of course you know eBay, so why not use eBay Motors? For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, there's only one place to go. It's eBay Motors. With the guaranteed fit, you can be sure every part fits right the first time around. No meddling with parts that don't fit, trying to make it work. No, just add your ride to My Garage and look for that green check mark. And that's going to help you know whether your part will fit. And if it doesn't, you get your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop with eBay Motors. All you need to do is check out the website, and with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, get the right fit, and get the right prices at ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Check out ebaymotors.com.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub, the official bar of the Locked On Senators podcast, and will continue to be through all of next season. So go give GLEBE Central Pub a nice big thank you by going to 779 Bank Street and letting them know that Locked On Senators sent you. They're so excited for the shuttle next season, but in the meantime, in the summer, go stop by. If you're going shopping at Lansdowne, you're going down to see Atletico Ottawa, you're going to a Red Blacks game once football season is back, the perfect place for a pre-gamer is at the GLEBE Central Pub. It's amazing vibes, it's great food, it's obviously cold drinks, and they've got the air conditioning blasting on a hot summer day, so go check out what they're cooking up at the GLEBE Central Pub. You can do all that down on Bank Street, 779, right in the heart of the Glebe. And as we said, make sure you let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. The shuttle was a smashing success, and that's thanks to everybody who's been a part of the show and been a part of the community in the Glebe and in Ottawa as a whole. So go check them out, GLEBE Central Pub, GLEBE Central Pub, 779 Bank Street. All right, Pillsy. What do you say we just get this playoff chatter going? Because the Stanley Cup Playoffs, best time of year. First round, best time of year.
Oh, yeah.
8 series, and they all lasted 10 days. But unfortunately, the Winnipeg Jets, the first team eliminated.
Man, I'm so disappointed, and I'm going to have to take all those people dunking on me for my take, having them go all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. But in my defense, no Scheifele, no Morrissey. Ehlers only comes back when it's already gone. And
did you see what Ehlers did last night?
What do you mean, no?
8 shot attempts, 0 shots on goal.
Oh, yeah, and he got hit pretty hard with he blocked a shot, and I thought he was going to be out again there. But the key to all this, Ross, what I had holding this all together was Connor Hellebuck. And that was not the Connor Hellebuck that I thought was going to show up to these playoffs.
It was Freaky Friday between him and Laurent Brossoit. His old backup gets the final laugh in that series. That's honestly, I thought I was going to get a Rick Bonus rant out of you right now.
I mean, yeah, sure, I'll give you a Rick Bonus rant. I was disappointed and disgusted in the Winnipeg Jets. Oh my God, Ross, I fell, 11 games short, 11 wins short of my predictions. So, yeah, not happy with the Winnipeg Jets. And Ross, you know better than me being in the area, but I have a feeling that that's the last straw with this core. In my mind, there's no excuse why this core couldn't get it done. I've said it multiple times. On paper, I thought they had one of the best rosters in the league, up, down, top to bottom, and they're not able to get it done. So I think we're going to see Dubois and or Scheifele gone, and probably Blake Wheeler out of the mix there too. But we were talking about it before, Ross. This is a team that they wouldn't have to do a long rebuild because their prospect pool is stacked.
One of our favorites, Rutger McGroarty, Brad Lambert, all that. But yeah, we'll save all that for Locked On Jets. All I'll say is it all changed in that double overtime. Yeah, the injuries too, but you win that overtime game in game 3, double OT. They hit a post in single OT, right? That goes in. You're up 2-1 in the series. All of a sudden, things might be a little bit different.
Very different.
With the injury. So it just shows you how quick a game can flip on its head, right? So you get all that there. And now we're looking at a couple more elimination games tonight. But do you have any more on the Leaf series you want to get out from your system? Or would you like to just move on to the next series, just like the Lightning are going to move on to the next game here?
No, we don't need to spend too much more time on the Leafs.
Yeah, that's fair. Let them just lay in silence. Tomorrow night's going to be fantastic, though, with that game 6. And then also it will be game 6 with the Devils having a chance to win the series at Madison Square Garden after going up 3-2 in their series last night. And they've won both games at MSG. So if I'm a Rangers fan, and I have a future on them, so I am probably the biggest Blue Shirts fan going, I'm a little worried because outside of Igor Shesterkin, the offense they scored 10 goals in the first 2 games. And then the Devils put in the X factor, Akira Schmid, and now the Rangers just can't score.
It's wild, man. Like, I think all of us thought, and from the Sens angle here, a reason why we should be Rangers fans is that 7th round pick in the Tyler Mott trade will turn into a 6th if they win a round. I thought we all kind of thought that was a shoo-in, right? Especially when they went up 2-0 on the road. Yikes, have they fallen apart?
They certainly have. All right, what else we got tonight in the NHL? The
Tonight's huge, Ross. There could be, in my mind, sorry to interrupt there, but in my mind, I think we're going to see 3 series close out today.
3 sets of handshakes?
Yes.
Who is going to stay alive then between the Islanders, home to Carolina, the Panthers, home to Boston, the Wild, home to Dallas, or the Avalanche on the road in Seattle?
I just cannot see a scenario where the Colorado Avalanche are eliminated in 6 games. And I know there's lots of things going on, the Cale Makar suspension, but he is coming back. Nichushkin is a big loss. So they're going to have to figure a way to do this. And on the road in Seattle, that barn is wild. It's going to be crazy. But I just don't see a scenario where Seattle closes this out that early. So all the other series, I got handshakes, but it's the defending Stanley Cup champions. There's no way they lose in round 1 that early to an expansion team. No way.
Seattle plus 130 at home if you want to get wild, though, at FanDuel. I think that could be that's going to be a fun game. That's been a series that's been on the back burner for me, but I'm going to be locked into that one tonight. That's the late game. Oh, I should also let people know I'm going to a playoff game tonight that has 2 Sens prospects in it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm so fired up. Going to go down to the Ice Cave. Go see Winnipeg play Saskatoon. Now that's a nice Western Hockey League matchup, eh? Saskatoon and Winnipeg. Let's go.
Yeah, big time. The Prairie Boys will be all over that one.
Yeah, so Zach Ostapchuk, who has 7 goals in 9 games in the postseason, he'll be up front, and Carson Latimer as well, friend of the show. I'm hoping that he shows well here, not only tonight but the rest of the playoffs, because they need to make a decision whether they're going to sign him this summer. And having the knee injury he did for so long, that obviously took him out from a lot of potential games to show himself here as he's trying to earn a contract. So I'm going to be locked onto those 2 guys. I'll file a report and we'll play that for you on Monday's Locked On Senators. But fired up for that 3rd round of the playoffs, right? This is where your big guys have to be just that. So conference finals, the Western final, by the way, Seattle against Kamloops. It's basically Canada's World Junior team split onto 2.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, where's the series at for Winnipeg and Saskatoon?
This could be game 1 tonight.
Awesome. Nice.
Yeah, that was a part of me wanting to. I got a single standing room ticket, so I'm just gonna go hang out. I'm gonna rock the Sens bucket hat. Hey,
nice.
Get my pen and paper. We'll get the scouting notes going tonight.
Love it.
Stay tuned for those notes on Twitter as well at Sens Central. Any last NHL notes you want to get to, Pilsy? Because I'm really excited for the Nodak Sens edition of our exit interviews. And it was funny, when I was teasing it earlier, I realized mid-sentence, it's like, we've already covered the 6 defensemen on NHL deals, not recognizing that Jake Sanderson is younger than the 2 prospects we're about to discuss.
It's wild. Yeah, it's so wild. I want to get your predictions. How are these games tonight going? How many series do you have ending?
All right, well, I'll look over at FanDuel right now. Carolina plus 100 on the road. I like the Islanders. I had this series going 7.
Okay.
Islanders 7. I think Carolina, we talked about it so much. The firepower or lack thereof that they have without Pacioretty and without Svechnikov, and you add that into the goaltending for the New York Islanders. I think he's just going to get better and better, Ilya Sorokin. So I'm going with the Islanders tonight to keep that series alive, 3-3. Man, if I want to get really crazy, Florida at plus 146. I kind of like the number more than the team. I do think Boston wins this series, but I don't know, man. The way that they played last game, and I'm curious because Ullmark didn't really deal with a whole lot of adversity all year. I'm curious if this is a game where they kind of second guess each other or what happens, because I'm even hearing whispers like, should Swayman start?
Well, the thing is, Ross, is the one person Ullmark and the Bruins didn't want to score that overtime goal was Matthew Tkachuk. Like, he is in their head, under their skin. So now they get to go back to Florida, back to the Sunshine State, where Matthew is comfortable and he wants to get these crowd and these fans excited. So I do have Boston winning this game, but it's not going to be a blowout. I think the Panthers are going to make things tough on them.
I'm going to say there's 2 sets of handshakes tonight, Pillsy, and I'm going the other way. So I'm going Dallas wins the series over Minnesota tonight.
I think that's a shoo-in, yeah.
I think Seattle wins tonight, buddy. I think there's so much going on behind the scenes with the Avalanche. And
yeah, fair.
obviously, like a little bit of an asterisk, not having their captain all season to defend the Stanley Cup. That's tough. I think that Grubauer's been phenomenal against his former team. You can never discount a revenge game. Revenge games and new dads. Those are the 2 things you always have to bet on, that they are going to have fantastic games. So I'm just excited for 4 great games tonight as we await Leafs Lightning tomorrow. I don't know if you heard, the Leafs are 0-10 in the Matthews-Marner era when they have a chance to close out a series. And they've had leads going into the 3rd period. Last night they scored first, but they give up a goal 26 seconds later. The only thing, and I'm glad I got to this is what we'll wrap up. I want your reaction to this, but you know how you always point out that I love when a road team scores while the home team goal is being announced?
Yep.
They couldn't even start the PA at the time. They hadn't even started it, and the Lightning scored. So the Lightning scored, then off the next face-off, they're like, Maple Leafs goal. And there's no enthusiasm in their voice. The crowd's dead. It was so beautiful.
Ross, I know you love that, but I hated that because I didn't walk, I didn't crawl, I ran to FanDuel.com. The second the Leafs scored, I was like, I'm emptying the account on Tampa Moneyline. And I went and it was loading, and then it locked, and I was like, I missed it. I know the Tampa Bay Lightning are scoring here, and sure enough, they got that goal. So I still bet them before the game, and I had them in regulation and everything, so that was fine. But I had money left in my FanDuel account anticipating the Leafs would score first and they would blow the lead, and I didn't get there in time because the Tampa Bay Lightning were that quick.
Oh, I absolutely love that. That's so funny. Oh, well. Tomorrow's going to be great. And again, let's enjoy this while we can, because they are 1 game away. But the 4th one, it's always the hardest to get.
Yeah, so. Ross, you said 0-10 in elimination games. There's no way that's right. Are you sure? 0-10, 10 straight times?
It's actually 0-11, but I was very nice, and I discarded their 4-1 blown lead in Game 7 of Boston.
Credit to you.
Because Matthews and Marner weren't there. So I wanted it to be focused on the core that they have right now.
You think Matthews and Marner know that? Do you think they're aware?
Oh, they definitely know that. But hey, all in all, it's gonna be a great series. And I love what John Cooper said at the end. He goes, come on. This hockey's been too good for it to end in 5 games. So why don't we just see you back here for Game 7? And they got up and left.
Mic drop. Yeah, that was sick. Coop is the best. My God.
Yes, that's such a lawyer, eh? At the end of the day. Oh, man. And so now the Leafs have to win 1 of the next 2 games, or else they'll have blown another 3-1 series lead, just like they did to the Montreal Canadiens during the COVID season. All right, let's get back to the Ottawa Senators. Coming up, we will discuss the seasons of Tyler Kleven and Jacob Bernard-Docker. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators. Today's episode is brought to you by Owl & Co. It's one of our favorite sponsors. It's something I use almost every single day. Pilsy's got the bottle right there. They've got lots of great items on their website, Owl & Co. Just head over to their website, Owl & Co., and make sure that when you go there, you use our promo code. Because you're a listener of the Locked On Senators podcast, you are entitled to a 10% bonus. Save the tax. Go to owlandcogrooming.com and follow them on Instagram, Owl & Co Grooming. Chris is a local Sens fanatic. He's a citizen. He's been a friend of the show forever. He comes to the live events. Yep. Absolute beauty. Friends helping friends, support local. That's what it's all about here on Locked On Senators. So here's the crazy thought. What if you make amazing grooming products that combine next level nourishment with a side of incredibly long lasting scent? That's what they have at Owl & Co Grooming. They've got hair tonics. They've got sea salt sprays. They've got utility bombs. Versatility at its finest. Now, all of the products at Owl & Co are made with natural ingredients such as coconut oil and sweet almond oil to ensure your skin is getting the nourishment it needs. All of our grooming products here are made by hand in small batches, so you know they're going to be made to the highest standard. Carefully chosen ingredients, and the scents will leave you, your partner, and everyone around you in awe. So go outside your comfort zone. Start with these products every single morning. You'll see that creating a grooming routine doesn't have to suck. And in no time, it can really become a part of the day that you look forward to. Just like eating your favorite cereal when you're a kid. For me, it's my yogurt and berries every morning. That's a win. So go to Owl & Co. Grooming and go find out how they can help you and have some fun along the way. So go and use Senators 10 at checkout to save 10% off your order. We know you're going to love it, and we can't wait for you to try it out. It's Owl & Co. Grooming. Go check them out, Owl & Co. Grooming, on Instagram and the website. Merch is up. The merch looks great. We're getting ours. Go get yours, Owl & Co. Grooming. All right, Pillsy. Nice Friday energy today. The Leafs fail to close out the series. The Senators are about to be a billion-dollar asset.
A Billy.
I would say this is a great start to the weekend. And again, if you want to make Locked On Senators get to $1 billion one day in a valuation, make sure you like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Absolutely free for you, but it does a lot for us. Leave a review as well on YouTube. You can leave comments. We always read them, get back to as many as we can. And on Apple Podcasts, you can also leave a 5-star review there. That just helps us out with the algorithm as well. Speaking of the rhythm, I think we're getting into one right here with the way we're breaking down these exit interviews. If you missed any of them and don't want to go through each episode and like, oh, when did they talk about Anton Forsberg? Oh, when did they talk about Jake Sanderson? Tomorrow at, I don't know, in the morning. Tomorrow, I'm going to post all the ones we've done, individual videos that you can consume at your leisure whenever you need to. All right, shout out to Owl & Co. as well. Really appreciate local sponsors. If you want to sponsor the show, you can reach out. There is a contact email on our YouTube page. All right, let's get back to our exit interviews. We're two young stud defensemen who are up and coming are on the books today. Let's start with the one who played more NHL games this season and has played more NHL games over the last couple of years. It's Jacob Bernard-Docker. Now, this is an interesting one for me because the numbers are never going to be what jumps off the page for Jacob Bernard-Docker. In the NHL this year, he played 19 games, had 1 lone assist, and played 16 minutes and 1 second per game. The expected goals percentage, which takes into account different shot attempts with the high danger of them, scoring opportunities, 50.5, whereas the shot attempts for versus against at 5-on-5 when he was on the ice, 49.6. Pillsy, this one's interesting. The fans gave him a C. 61.5% gave him a C, which I would believe to be adequate. What would you describe Jacob Bernard-Docker's season as last year?
I think it was another step towards where he's trying to be, right? If you're looking at Jacob Bernard-Docker's NHL career right now, his first taste was just 5 games in 2021. Then he had 8 games in 21-22, and now you bump that all the way up to 19 games. He got a little bit more of an idea of what that's like. He got to play with different partners. He was with Thomas Chabot for most of the time, and then near the end of the season, Jacob Bernard-Docker and our next exit interview guy, Tyler Kleven, they got to play a bunch on the bottom pair. So it's really interesting to see how they're integrating JBD into this NHL lineup. And you mentioned it, the points just, that doesn't tell the story about Jacob Bernard-Docker. And ironically, Ross, he had that assist in his first game, and then he went 18 straight games without a point.
I'll take that a step further. His first point was 50 seconds into the first game he played this year.
Well, at least he got that monkey off his back real soon, eh? Now he can just kind of relax there.
It was a secondary assist on a Drake Batherson goal where Alex DeBrincat had the other assist. Yeah, 50 seconds into the first period. Funny we're doing this conversation today because that was the first game that Ryan Reynolds was at, the Vancouver game.
True.
So Funny enough how that all comes full circle. But yeah, with JBD, I think the best thing I can say about his game this year is that he didn't look overwhelmed when he was going to pick up pucks in his own zone. I felt like sometimes the forecheck would get to him last year, and even in that 5-game sample, but more so last year, where he became a little more timid. Whereas this year, I think physically, he's definitely a big, strong kid. And I think that he's starting to realize that he can match up in terms of strength with other forwards on other teams. And he's willing to take contact behind his own net and then make a quick shovel pass. Whereas before, I think he was kind of hurrying and maybe trying to get rid of the puck a little bit too fast. Whereas I still see an NHL, like this guy will be an NHL defenseman. I just have a little bit of trouble figuring out what the timeline is for him to be that. Like, does he need more time in Belleville? Does he need to be an AHLer? He needs waivers next year, which is where things get really interesting. But to finish up my thoughts on last year before we move forward, an RFA here needs a new contract. Like, do you think that he could still be that complimentary top four defenseman where he's just going to kind of defer? Maybe not in Ottawa. We talked about the top four is pretty locked in here now. But before, right, that was always the thing. It's like, oh, he could be like the Mathot type where it's like he'll make a good offensive defenseman better because he's so steady and just ice and is very calm as a partner. So that's why I'm trying to figure out, though, like where does he fit in?
Yeah, and it's interesting, especially now with the way this decor shapes up. And Ross, we've mentioned it, at least I'll speak for myself. I've mentioned it multiple times that I've always seen JBD as the piece to the puzzle for Thomas Chabot's defense partner. Because you said it. He's not going to get points. He's not going to be flashy. He's not going to do highlight reel plays. But he's going to allow his partner to have the space to do that. And we got to see Thomas Chabot and Jacob Bernard-Docker actually play together for a decent sample size, Ross. 10 games, 128 minutes. Unfortunately, I wouldn't say it was a smashing success as their Corsi 4 percentage was 45.02. But also, you have to kind of take that with a grain of salt. You're asking a young defenseman to come up and play top minutes right there. So not only are you playing a lot of minutes, but you're playing up against other teams' biggest threats offensively. So that definitely can be a tough challenge for Jacob Bernard-Docker. I'm not so convinced that he's still that golden boy partner for Thomas Chabot, just because, like you mentioned, unfortunately, contractually, this is going to be a very interesting season. He needs a new contract and he needs waivers if he's going to be sent down. So I don't know where Jacob Bernard-Docker fits, Ross, not only on this team next year, but in this franchise, because he's played a lot of games in Belleville. And maybe I'll pass this off to you and get your opinion on it. But does he have more to prove in Belleville, or did he not prove enough in Belleville? I really can't decide.
He's a game short of 100 AHL games between this year and last. And just from talking to Footy, talking to other guys, it seems like he's kind of been that top pair, reliable, defer to your partner to do offense guy down there. And it's interesting because in college, that's what he was as well. But then in his final season as a junior, his third year, he exploded offensively as well. And you're like, oh, is he going to take another step? Like, will he do more in the offensive zone than just kind of feather pucks on net? Like, can he cycle a little bit? Can he move around? Can he hold the line a little bit more solidly? But it just feels like it's almost like that. He knows what he's good at, and he just wants to be really good at that instead of kind of being that all-around defenseman. And that's where it's going to kind of pigeonhole him into only being able to be effective in certain situations. And again, probably not with a guy like Tyler Kleven, who would be a kind of a more stabilizer type guy back there as well. And then you have Jacob Chicker, so you don't really need the guys to be a Chabot partner or something like that anyway. So to answer your question, I'd say he's probably proven enough in Belleville to take the next step. But is he going to be an NHLer this year? Or is he going to be one of those like quadruple A guys, to steal a baseball reference, where like you're too good for triple A, but you struggle in the majors, right? It's one level, but it's such a big jump. And it's about getting comfortable, but also having the opportunity to get enough reps to be doing that. And I mean, he averaged 16 minutes a game. So when he was in the NHL, it's not like he was sitting on the bench like he was in his first season. Or no, even then he did play a decent amount, but wasn't like he was a number 7 guy just sitting on the bench waiting for PKs or to get out there. So I don't know. This guy, this is a very interesting storyline because they used a first round pick for him. They traded back to get another asset. Rangers go up and take Keandre Miller, who's been an absolute star in the NHL. So you're like, okay, what are you seeing in Jacob Bernard-Docker? This guy was drafted the same year as Brady Tkachuk. Like, how long before you allow him to blossom before it's like, okay, we got to make tough decisions here. the depth on this team is where it hasn't been since you've been in the organization. So how are you going to come to camp next year and make it impossible for us to put you on waivers? Because we talk about Lassie signed for next year. JBD's not. I don't know if that's going to impact anything, but it's a guy you might have to put on waivers if he doesn't impress at camp.
And he's got his work cut out for him now, because now we just talked about Eric Brandstrom and Travis Hamnick in yesterday's episode, and those guys have a considerable leg up on JBD as far as it goes to making the NHL roster. And Ross, it's funny you mentioned, I talked about how I thought JBD was going to be Thomas Chabot's partner. That didn't really work out. And then you mentioned that, well, it's also kind of awkward because you feel like if he's paired with Tyler Kleven, neither of those guys really excel at moving the puck up. But you look at it, Tyler Kleven was Jacob Bernard-Docker's next most ice time partner with 51 minutes and 28 seconds. And their Corsi 4 was a whopping 65.66%. But now keep in mind, that's going from top pair minutes to bottom pair minutes. So, and if you look at Jacob Bernard's game logs, Ross, it's very apparent which games he played with Thomas Chabot and which games he played with Tyler Kleven. But they were able to have success together as a pair on the bottom pair there. So that's something interesting where maybe it's not so much that Jacob Bernard-Docker has kind of fallen out of place in this organization as much as it needs to be a rebranding, and expectations need to be tempered on what he can do.
So he needs one more season of pro hockey before being arbitration eligible. So I would imagine that this would mean he needs to have a great camp, and it's just kind of going to come to that. But I think he signs a 2-way contract, 1 year, 2-way, NHL money, maybe 200,000 at the AHL level, maybe give him a little extra cookie there, or you make the AHL money higher if you do still believe that he's going to be an NHL, and maybe give him a lot, and then maybe that helps him clear waivers if another team isn't going to bite because of that. But you know what? If he earns a spot in the NHL and there's no room in Ottawa, I hope that he does find success, because we had him on the show. Great guy, really salt of the earth type guy. And I think that he will have an NHL career. I really do. So I'm hoping for good things for Jacob Bernard-Docker, and it'd be great if it ends up being on the Sens blue line.
Now, let me ask you this, and then we'll move on to Tyler Kleven. Do you believe there's a path for him to outwork Travis Hamnick?
Well,
Hamnick get there
right now. Not that I'm saying I do think he comes back, but
I'm making the assumption he's back. Yeah,
he's going to have to beat out Hamnick and maybe Kleven as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Lefty, but Kleven played the right side a considerable amount. So, you know what he does need, Pills? He needs to have a huge summer and come in and make the team have no choice but to keep him. It's going to be fun. I'm really excited for this because, man, we've obviously been following them since North Dakota. 18 points in 27 games last year. North Dakota, he even helped Canada at the World Championships and playing against men as a 20-year-old. We're like, okay, let's go. Let's see you take the next step. And it's just been a slow grind. And he's still only 22 years old. He'll be 23 at the end of June. This is the year for him. This is the make or break, at least in the Sens organization, not in his pro career. I still think he'll be a pro, but this might be a make or break season for Jacob Bernard-Docker with the Sens. All right, Tyler Kleven, the K-Train. Choo-choo! Been an absolute blast getting to watch Tyler Kleven develop from a do not draft on some boards going into the 2020 selection process to then scoring 20 goals in college in the span of 3 shortened seasons, more or less. I think it was 90 games, 20 goals. This guy, absolute mutant, hitting people, and then steps into the NHL. And he did something I didn't really know was a part of his game, at least watch him in college. It almost felt like he was a free-range missile sometimes, just throwing his body, throwing hits, throwing his stick in terms of offensive shot opportunities. He got to the NHL, Pillsy. He flipped the switch, and all of a sudden, he was like the most poised defenseman on the team. I couldn't believe it.
And we didn't see him throw any big hits, at least in my mind. I can't think of any. And we kind of thought, okay, now he doesn't have the shackles of kind of a tightly regulated physical game in college. He's going to let things fly. And he didn't do that. But that's credit to him showing that he doesn't like. I would have thought Tyler Kleven would have been like, okay, for me to make an impact and to impress DJ Smith, I gotta be physical. I'm a big body. That's how I'm gonna make it. But like you mentioned, he did it more not through physical play, but through poise, through making smart, simple decisions, playing responsible. And look, I'm not sure where I stand if I think Tyler Kleven is NHL ready come next season, but he sure impressed me with how he looked. And I'm looking at the graphic now. If you're watching on YouTube, the fan grade was a B, a 62.9%. Fans voted that. I'm right with you guys. I'm giving Tyler Kleven a B rating.
Ooh, I'm gonna go B plus just because he surprised me with what his skills were. I was expecting him again to come in, maybe show off the shot, which I mean he did. How many of his shots were blocked or missed? Not many. I feel like a lot of them got through and were able to hit the net. And just in offensive situations, just the poise that he showed was really remarkable for being a 20-year-old fresh out of college in a situation that he was coming into with so many injuries on the back end and really kind of jumping in. Like the treadmill's going at 10 out of 10 and he's got to jump in and figure his footing out right away. And he did just that. 8 games for Tyler Kleven, 2 assists, 2 points. His expected goals percentage, 61.4. His Corsi, 62.8. Averaged 14 minutes and 41 seconds per game. Burned a year off his contract, as you do when you come out of college, like he did at the end of the season. So now he has 2 years left on his entry-level deal with the Ottawa Senators. Just not many other ways I can say, just super impressed with every aspect of his game. I'm with you, Pilsy. Like 8 games, that's great. Can you do it for an extended period of time? We'll see. But having him as a top pair guy in Belleville and getting him those puck touches, I mean, Brad Schlossman, I think, nailed it when he said it. He's like, there is so much developing left for Tyler Kleven. It would be a shame to see him get pigeonholed into a certain role at the NHL level and not allowing him to reach his full potential. So your left side right now has Shabbat, has Sanderson, has Brandstrom, and you don't need waivers for Kleven. I think it's kind of a no-brainer, as much as like we're probably the biggest Tyler Kleven fans going. But when you look at what he can do as a guy who gets called up midway through the season, I think it's an easier decision for the team to make to start him in Belleville, playing 22, 23 minutes a night, and then call him up in due time. He will play NHL games next year, though.
Yep, I think so as well. And Mark Mathot had a really good insight on him saying, look, I think this guy has more than bottom pair potential. I think he will eventually overcome Artem Zub's role. And we heard it. Brad Barry, what was the one thing he told Tyler Kleven in his final year of development? Hey, I'm going to get you on the right side here. Because in the NHL, for a left shot defenseman, there's 3 jobs. If you can play both sides, you've now doubled that and you've made yourself available for 6 different roster spots. And I think with Tyler Kleven, there's no rush. Like, I don't want to sound like a Kleven hater. I'll spin zone it more as Pilsy preaching patience. Nailed that one. That I think if you develop him right and have him go in Belleville and play big minutes, just like he did in his last year at UND, I think you can really shape a proper middle 4 defenseman. Like, I don't think he has top pair potential, which is not a knock on him. Who does have top pair potential? Not many people, but second pair for sure. I more meant he could be on the second pair or third pair. Okay. But the thing is, I really think I want to see him go to Belleville and hone those physical skills up against men, up against guys that are smarter, experienced, faster, all those kinds of things. And I want to see him be able to lay those hits out in Belleville so that he can bring that part of his game along with the poise, along with the responsible decision-making up to the NHL when he is ready. Because this decor is stacked finally, Ross. There's no rush to get Tyler Kleven in there. So I'm focusing on the long game here, and I want his developmental path to go through Belleville for a bit.
6'5", 220 pounds, hits like a mutant,
like a train.
Yeah, well, I mean,
some might say
his favorite player growing up was Nicholas Cronwall, so you can kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together based on that guy from Detroit back in the day. But just a very soft-spoken kid when we had him on. You know, he's very confident, I think, in his own abilities, and it pisses me off when I still go to Elite Prospects today and they still have a blurb about him in the 2020 draft guide. Like, buddy, that was 3 years ago. You're not going to update your take on him. And it's just kind of like, imagine like him and his family, they go to that website and it's just like, why? Like, it just feels like an unnecessary put down.
You know what? That's a chip on his shoulder, though. I think that's a good thing because he's the kind of guy. I don't think he would publicly be like, "I'm proving everyone wrong," etc. But I think privately and in his own mind and his own training, he keeps tabs on that.
Kleven, quote, Kleven has a booming one-timer, but the Salem Bear has more confirmed sightings. Like, these guys think they're funny?
I don't even understand that reference.
I don't know. It's like, I guess Bigfoot, something like that. He's rarely ready to shoot, but occasionally hits a teammate with a crafty pass or activates down low.
Yeah, but keep in mind these are notes on him after only 1 year in college.
No, it was before he went to college. So that's why it's weird. It's like you go to his page on Elite Prospects and it's still up. It's like, buddy, 3 years ago. Like, you're not going to update your takes. I feel like that it's not only Elite Prospects, but a lot of these scouting, they see the player in their draft year, and that's their opinion of them for the rest of their career. Like, they can't. Anyways, that's a whole other. But I mean, this is the guy to have the conversation about with, because how many scouts just completely wrote him off and he hadn't even played college.
Well, and it's hilarious, Ross. He was labeled as a do not draft. The Ottawa Senators traded up to get him. I feel like the online community were howling at that, laughing that the Sens decided to trade up and that the Leafs got 2 amazing prospects out of the deal. Where are those guys now?
I don't know. Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But what I do know is I'm happy that Tyler Kleven's an Ottawa Senator because he brings a bit of something different on the back end. The Sens are loaded with puck movers right now, and he just brings that physical intensity. I'm just excited to see what he's like in 4 or 5 years, where it's like he is, like we talk about JBD, how his confidence is growing year after year. Like, you give this kid 3 or 4 years to really kind of fill out his frame and be that pro hockey player over and over again. And I think this guy is going to be a very, very tough player to play against. Let's put it that way. And if he can round out his offensive side of the game, if he can be a 25 to 35 point guy on top of it, now we're looking at a player that's going to turn some heads, and maybe some apologies will be needed for what the scouting community kind of put him through during his draft year. So, hey, we've been Tyler Kleven believers since day one, and it's going to continue that way here on Locked On Senators for the foreseeable future, because every time that we kind of push him in the right direction, he comes back and does something sick that makes us more fired up as Sens fans that he is a part of this organization. So next year, you're with me though, start in Belleville, make the jump mid-season.
I think definitely start in Belleville. I'm not sure if he's going to make the jump mid-season, Ross, just because this team is going to be, hopefully, in a different spot where it's not about meaningful games. It's about contending in the playoffs, and to throw a young defenseman into that mix can be a little difficult. So, like I mentioned, I don't have any rush. So if he plays all year in Belleville and maybe only gets a handful of call-ups and a couple of games, a cup of coffee in the NHL, I'm okay with that because I got no rush on this kid. I got all the faith in the world in him, and I think he is going to be a part of this roster in the future.
The one defenseman that we didn't really touch on at all is Lassie Thompson. He only played 2 games this year in the NHL. It was -2, and it just felt like the team was probably disappointed with his development. But you look in the second half of the season in Belleville, though, he was a very good defenseman.
I mean, Pierre Dorion made it known he was disappointed in Lassie Thompson's development this season, and I think everyone else kind of was too. Not to get too hard on the guy, but look, I think a year or two ago, Ross, you're looking at JBD and Lassie Thompson, and you're saying, hey, these prospects have a chance to make some noise and crack this roster. It's a weak decor. That's gone now. And I'm not saying it's these guys' fault. They were too slow to develop, nothing like that. I'm just saying that window that we thought was wide open for one or even both of those guys to get a roster spot is not there. There's one roster spot as far as I'm concerned, and that's bottom pair right D. And if they do bring Hamonic back,
that's the inside track right there. But as we saw this year, like, you need to have solid players in the back of your pipeline as well. The Ottawa Senators this season, Trivia time, Pilsy. How many defensemen did the Ottawa Senators use this season?
12.
15.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did forget Zaitsev.
Ooh, how many can you name?
Okay, Thomas Chabot,
Yes.
Jacob Chikrin,
Yes.
Jake Sanderson,
Yes.
Travis Hamonic, Nick Holden, Eric Brandstrom, Lassie Thompson, Tyler Kleven, Jacob Larson, Dylan Hetherington, Nikita Zaitsev. Ooh.
You're missing such an obvious one.
Is that last guy? Oh, Armzoop. That's it.
You're missing one.
I said Branny, right?
Yeah. He played one game. Played game 82.
Oh, our guy, Gannett.
Max Gannett as well. But you got Larson, you got Hetherington. Max Gannett, the one guy there. So there you have a little trivia to end off your Friday episode of Locked On Senators. Let us know in the comments what you think about the Sens decor going forward. We've got all of our exit interviews done for the defense and the goaltenders. Next week, it's the forwards. We also have some interviews coming. We've got Angus Crookshank next week or the week after. Garriock's going to come back once this ownership stuff gets going. And we've got second round playoffs coming up. It's all here on Locked On Senators. When we talk playoffs, of course, we get a Sens angle to it. So adios, Sens abroad. Dylan DeMello, Vlad Nemesnikov, thanks for stopping by. But Mark Stone, 8 points in the 5-game series. He was outrageously talented and back from his lower back injury and looking no worse for wear. So Mark Stone moves on to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and Mello and Vlad go home. All right, next week on Locked On Senators, we'll get into all that. Thank you to Owl & Co. for jumping on with us this year. Thank you to GLEBE Central Pub for coming on with us this year, and eBay Motors. If there's anything wrong with your car, you know where to go. Pilsy, your final thoughts.
Final thoughts for me is thanks, guys, for sticking through this episode. This is my flu game. I'm dealing with a very sore throat, if you can't tell, but podcasting ain't easy. I'm grinding through it.
Rest is a weapon. If I hear that one more time, I'll go crazy.
No rest here, Pilsy.
No, your team every day. So yes, I apologize if I sound like I've been smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, but battling through.
That's why everyone loves you, Pilsy. Nick Paul look alike, as the comment said on YouTube. No, lots of great stuff this week, Pilsy. You sounded great. All good. Thanks to everyone for jumping on with us. We really do appreciate it, especially here in the off season. For today, we say goodbye. Have a great weekend, everyone. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.